Everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff review on the recently launched Bath & Body Works Ginger and Hinoki candle, part of the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Candle Collection, their Perfumers Capsule Collection for May of 2024. But first, if you're new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for fine home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com and follow me over on Instagram, also at TouchTheFireTwice. But for now, let's dig into Ginger and Hinoki. So you may have already seen, if you haven't, go back and watch it, my introductory video to this Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Capsule Collection, sort of celebrating the contributions and heritage and family memories of perfumer Linda Song and designer Edward Iwata Chiem. In that first video, I gave an overview of the collection, the 4 candles within it, and an in-depth sniff comparison review for bamboo and eucalyptus. But today we're going to talk about Ginger Hinoki. This is a post-burn review, so it will include not just the fragrance, but also the performance of the candle. And just a review from what we talked about in the first video, the overall design of this collection, very simple, straightforward, not particularly exciting. I think it would be hard to truly love it, also hard to truly hate it, just kind of is what it is. There's some layers to it. I mentioned I do like the kind of varying levels of translucency or opacity so that you can see the color of the wax, which in this case does match the label. I appreciate that, the yellow wax matching the yellow label, as well as the ability to see the flame as it flickers throughout when it is lit, right? And I always appreciate kind of the glossy black lids. They feel a bit elevated beyond just the traditional metal chrome lids, let alone the cheap, thin, plastic-like metal lids that some candle companies are using these days. Now, I feel like most folks know and are familiar with ginger, what it smells like, what it tastes like. You eat it, you've probably eaten it in many different cuisines, both Asian cuisines and otherwise, and you're probably less familiar with Hinoki. So we're gonna talk, of course, about both of those. And I do love to go into that kind of educational, learning along with you, and as I educate, to dig into all of the notes, to really understand what we're smelling so that we can, it's kind of like drinking a fine wine or something. If you understand what you're smelling or tasting in there and you can pick it out, you'll just enjoy the fragrance or the experience more because you'll have knowledge behind it, and you'll start to learn what you like and don't like. So if you see another, Hinoki candle or a candle that has Hinoki in it, and you actually know what that means, you're not blind buying, you're actually able to have a sense of what it may smell like in reality. Getting into the quote shared on the label that Linda says, "I created this fragrance to evoke a sense of balance and harmony, infusing the calming warmth of Hinoki with the fresh, uplifting vitality of ginger from India." And the 3 notes we get are simply fresh ginger, Hinoki wood, and orange zest. Now, I'll start by saying Bath & Body Works has not done many ginger-forward or even ginger-inclusive candles or fragrances in the past. Most notably, there is the kind of OG aromatherapy candle or aromatherapy fragrance. I don't know if it's even much ever in candles anymore, but orange ginger alongside eucalyptus spearmint or eucalyptus mint. Those are kind of the 2 biggest, oldest, long-standing fragrances in the aromatherapy collection that have come and gone in the home fragrance side of things as well. That orange ginger is heavy on the ginger, heavy on an orange, but it's more of it's not really a fresh orange juice. It's kind of, I suppose, a zest, almost leaning kind of a mix between cleaner orange, like when you're cleaning a cleaning product that smells like orange, or almost like a candied orange, a candied orange cleaner, sort of. I used it over the years, maybe when they had shampoo like 10 years ago in the aromatherapy collection. I liked it enough. It was the energizing one versus a relaxing or, sleep. All that to say, ginger and Hinoki could lean into that. And when I'm thinking of ginger candles, that was really the biggest ginger fragrance they've had, that orange ginger. They also had ginger appear in, I think when they did sort of the Moscow Mule inspired fragrances, candles over recent years. I want to say there were 2. Wasn't there like a ginger lime zest candle as well as a true frosted Moscow Mule in that sort of velvet label Art Deco collection that was, I want to say it was late 2021, maybe even 2020, I'm not certain. But the ginger in both of those were there. It was a soft sort of candy ginger versus the ginger and orange ginger was more that true, fresh, bracing, pungent ginger. And so that's what I would expect from something like this. And then Hinoki wood, which we'll talk about in a second, sort of exactly what that is and why it is so special and why it makes sense to include in a candle celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander history. But first, let's just get my nose on the scent itself, the wide view. It is not a fresh peppery ginger necessarily. There's a soft sweetness to it. I will say, after having burned it, the fragrance is a bit duller now than when I smelled it in store, and it was already on the weaker side in the store. It is fresh. It is not quite energizing, maybe a bit more grounding, refreshing, but not energizing. You know, the orange zest, I think I do get some citrus in there, but it's not energizing, bright, zippy. At the same time, orange zest is a bit more sweet citrus, a bit of almost floral to it sometimes, versus if you're going to get a lemon or a bergamot or a lime zest, that's going to be more of that bright ping, zippiness, freshness in the air. Orange zest is a bit just sweeter and the true essence of the orange, which isn't necessarily an energizing fragrance. There is a sweetness, I'm not sure exactly where it comes from, but this is fairly soft, which I'm assuming some of the softness likely comes from that Hinoki wood, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And the ginger is there. What I do like is it is a true ginger, not quite candied ginger, but it doesn't have any of the peppery pungency that if you bite into ginger raw or even, you know, cooked in a stir fry, or if you have some pickled ginger with your sushi, it's going to have a little tiny bit of a heat to it, a pepperiness to it. And you don't get any of that in here, but you do get an authentic ginger fragrance, which I do appreciate that you can smell the ginger is in here. The Hinoki wood is very, very subtle. And from what I understand, you know, I've never smelled true Hinoki wood oil. I've smelled it as an ingredient in other fragrances, and I've done some research on it. It does have a very distinctive fragrance. And heck, let's just get into it. So Hinoki wood is a wood that is native to Japan, and it is in the cypress family. So when you think of cypress, you're in sort of the evergreens, you're in the pines, think your junipers, think your cedars. Those are all similar and are related to cypress. And so it is similar to that. Let's say it's most similar perhaps to a cedar, but from my understanding, it's almost more, think of if cedar and Palo Santo and sandalwood kind of had a bit of, you know, relations there and kind of got this other wood that is said to be very grounding and a sacred wood, really used in sacred building. So actually building their temples or steam baths and onsens in Japan, very old world, very traditional. This wood, it's a very hardy wood. It has antibacterial properties. It stands up well to humidity, but at the same time, they say when the moisture hits it, it releases that beautiful scent that they say is grounding, but yet uplifting. It is smooth wood. It's not a choke you out. It's not a heavy, it's not a dark wood. There's a little bit of maybe a lemony facet to it as well, but a smooth, warm, rich wood. That's where I'm thinking some of the smoothness perhaps of sandalwood, some of that lemon from a Palo Santo, and then just the true traditional wood of like a cedar without going full on camphoraceous. It is said to evoke a sense of calm, like you're walking through a forest, a bit pine-like, but very neutral in the sense that it is not overly floral, overly citrusy, even with some lemon in it. Not too spicy, not too musky, but a very calm, earthy, crisp wood. And looking for that in here, I mean, there's something beyond just ginger and orange zest, right? So there is something that is bringing this a depth to this, but I wouldn't have called out very specifically wood necessarily, or it's not like a, 50-50 ginger and Hinoki with, or 40-40 with, a 20% orange zest in there. The wood really is a true background bass note for me because it doesn't stand out. This isn't a spicy, woody fragrance. This is a fresh fragrance. So you don't often get much woods in a fresh fragrance, but for me, this is very much in the fresh category. It's nice. It is, I don't want to use the words inconsequential because I just did the word inconsequential, but it's kind of that because it doesn't, and maybe this is a Bath & Body Works thing where it's trying to market to and sell to the masses. So there's not often going to be wild fragrances or true love-hate fragrances, but they're not going to do something truly intense like you might get from a Boy Smells or a Loftco or Harlem Candle Co. or any of the luxury candle companies out there. It's typically going to be scaled back and let's say, almost thinned out sometimes for mass appeal. Nothing wrong with that. Clearly, that works. That's their billion-dollar company, and that's why we all burn and buy so many of their fragrances, because they are such high appeal in some ways for what they are, right? But I wish they would go a little bit more intense or layered or complex with a candle like this. They could have really done something that introduced people to Hinoki, or even like educated. If we're celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander History Month, well, let's talk about what Hinoki is. I mean, you have this text here, like either put something on the bottom or on the website, explore and kind of teach people what is Hinoki. If you don't Google it or have knowledge of it, you wouldn't know based on this. How many people really knew? Probably not a lot. So hey, educate us, teach us, like tell us why it is unique to Japan. Maybe put something on the label that evokes that has a Hinoki wood forest or onsens or temples that are built with Hinoki wood, so we get a sense of that and know what we're smelling. They didn't do that. It's fine. It's perhaps that's asking a lot of, Bath and Body Works, whatever. So I guess what I'm saying is I wish it was more, I don't want to say educational, but I wish it was more clear what it was, because I like the idea of using something like that is native to Japan in a candle with celebrating Asian American Pacific Islander History Heritage Month. But I also wish that the fragrance was more in-depth, stronger, and unique, because you could frankly go into Walmart or, insert generic mass market place here and smell something like this. It really doesn't stand out as unique, and I'm certain, based on other fragrances that Linda Song has created that we've all smelled, that she can bring a very unique edge. This is not a knock on her as a perfumer. It's more so maybe a knock on Bath and Body Works for what they're asking their perfumer to create for them, right? The primary issue I have with this is the performance. Burn, fine. I burned it for an hour or two, got a great pool, etc. The throw on this was one of the lowest Bath and Body Works candles I have had maybe ever, in fact, really thinking about it, because there have been plenty of eras and years where there's been terrible burn, where either puny wick syndrome or drowning wicks where they don't fully pull out, or it takes hours and it never goes to the edge and gets full pull. This had great burn quality as far as getting a healthy pool with the blend of wicks to wax, but there aren't enough fragrance oils in there, or there's some imbalance with the blend that they chose or the wax formulation they used for this candle, because this was probably maybe a 2. I couldn't smell it, and it was only burning in a room that's a couple hundred square feet, and though I wasn't nose blind to it, I could go in and out of the room, still really couldn't smell it. Even now, I gotta really get my nose in there, and if I was blind smelling this and someone just handed it to me and my eyes closed and I wasn't thinking about it, it would be, I would maybe call it the ginger, but not much else. And even that, it's pretty weak. And ginger should not be weak. Ginger is a bracing, strong, pungent ingredient and note. And so in fact, I hate to return this, but it's gotta go back, because I don't wanna give it one more burn, because if it burns and then it looks bad, then I'm returning a candle that's, 2 burns deep. But truly, it was borderline unscented. Now I can smell it when I put my nose to it, but when I would go over the candle in a hurricane, mind you, and would, try to waft the fragrance to me, it was kind of like, I guess maybe there's something there, but that's not why we pay $26.95 or $12.95 or $9.71, anything for a candle. So it is gonna go back. That is disappointing. I would love for a fresh ginger Hinoki wood candle to burn, but I'm gonna have to go to maybe Emmy NYC, which is, I've done some reviews on them. If you, again, not to knock Bath and Body Works, certainly not to knock Linda Song, but I've done a couple reviews on Emmy NYC candles. They are a small business, AAPI owned and operated fragrance company, candle company. They also do, I think, reed diffusers and things like that as well. And they have, their entire collection is Asian influenced, inspired fragrances. And they probably have a Hinoki wood candle or something with ginger in it. Really, I bought 10 little tins of theirs before to sample them, and then I purchased a few other full sizes. They have things like boba or matcha or pandan or cherry blossom or bamboo, of course the fantasy fragrance of what bamboo is, down to sweets, to banana milk, to a beautiful jasmine tea candle. Really, if you were looking for Asian inspired fragrances, check out Emmy NYC. They're not cheap, they're not wildly expensive like some luxury candle companies can be, but it's going to give you a true, authentic experience that, unfortunately, for whatever reason, the ginger and Hinoki is not giving. So, again, hate to say it, I love celebrating and Asian American and Pacific Islander History Heritage Month, and love that Bath and Body Works is elevating and celebrating both the history and the people that are building these fragrances and designs. But this is not it, unfortunately. So check this out. I'd love to know if you have a strong one, what you think of it, if you have any other Hinoki fragrances that you really enjoy that you'd recommend that we all check out. And if you haven't checked out Emmy NYC, not sponsored, but check them out as well. Really, really beautiful fragrances. I've not been dissatisfied with any of them. Even if there were one or two that I didn't love, they were still well-balanced, interesting, thought-out fragrances. So check them out. So let me know what you think about this, and until next time, take care.